Welcome to another episode of Selling Southbay. My name is Aaron Alcides with Alpha Real Estate Group here at Keller Williams. And today I am here having a great conversation with a great gentleman that I know for a while, Karl. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
Aaron.
sir, for
Good to be with you.
coming to my office. And man, I'm very excited. And I know you have had a very busy day, and I truly appreciate you making that little bit of time for me today.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Well, Karl is actually an attorney, and he is with Parker's Milliken, and he specializes in labor and employment law. Correct?
That's part of it. Yeah.
Yes. And but your firm, I was looking on the website, and man, you guys have everything. You got family law, you got real estate taxation law, you got. I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the firm began decades and decades and decades ago as a purely tax firm.
Okay.
Judge Milliken was a tax court judge, and he took his experience to private practice, and he was the center point of all the tax practice in Los Angeles
Wow.
until bigger firms started to say, hey, why should he have it all?
Well, and we were just talking about how the firm is being around over 100 years. Now that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's uncommon these days, and it speaks to the quality of the people who've come to join, and so many of them have been there for a long, long time. We had a retirement 2 years ago of somebody who's finished his 55th year,
Oh boy.
and the fellow who's going to retire this year will have been there 60 years. So they've maintained practices, and they've had good followings among their clients.
Wow. How long have you been with the firm, Karl?
I moved to this firm 22 years ago.
Well, apparently there's a good retention plan going on. Well, we're going to talk specifically about what your specialty is. Tell us about how is it that you got into law, and also how long you've been practicing, and why you do it.
So I started in 1974 to practice law, but I had been an accountant before with a major accounting firm, and I learned that I really liked working with clients and hearing their business problems. So when I started to practice law and learned that I could do the same thing, it interested me in continuing and in broadening out my practice. So I had an opportunity to work on a lot of different things, as you do when you're a young lawyer.
Right.
But then an opportunity to specialize developed, and I began to do almost exclusively employment law, union labor negotiations, and work on pension plans, drafting them, advising trustees, and so forth. And a lot of that has continued to this day.
Wonderful. And do you work mainly for larger businesses, or do you work with individuals, let's say, on employment issues?
I primarily work with businesses that are you'd call medium size.
Got it.
They're 15 to 20 to 100 to 200 employees,
Okay.
and they're the ones who um, may not have a big HR department, so they rely on an individual who then relies on me to back them up and educate them about what the California legislature has done yesterday and how that might change what they do tomorrow.
And that is constantly changing.
It's constantly changing.
Yeah. So that's good that they have an. So you're more like an advisor to these
Yeah,
firms,
I'm really a consultant
consultant.
because I'm one of the few people anywhere, I think, particularly in Southern California, who has been an employment lawyer without being a litigator.
Oh,
I have a big fleet of litigators behind me, and when something gets out of control, or we're faced with a lawsuit before I ever had a chance to do anything about it, then they take over. And I advise them on the business aspects of this, because even litigation has many business aspects, and we want to make sure that our clients properly weigh the value of settlement versus the value of what they may or may not gain in litigation.
right. Well, Karl, it definitely sounds complex, and but I got to tell you, I have enjoyed spending time with you, and also being part of the same organizations here locally. And I believe we met at the chamber. You do quite a bit for the chamber. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I had the opportunity to start as head of an HR committee, and not long after that, the longtime general counsel for the chamber retired, and Barbara Glennie, the then head of the chamber, asked me if I'd be interested in stepping in, so I did. Now, she was only there a year or two before Donna came in, and Donna's did a fabulous job during her entire tenure. Donna's very easy to work with and easy to be around for everybody. Um,
She definitely is an amazing lady. I had the opportunity to have this conversation with her, and I didn't realize she's been doing this for 23 some years.
and she was an assistant beforehand, went off and cut her teeth doing something else, and then came back. So
Yeah.
for the chamber, occasionally there's an employment question, and occasionally there's a business question. And with my business background, I'm usually able to handle those. But one of my favorite things is being uh, the moderator for Torrance city election campaign debates and for the supervisor debates and mayoral debates. It's a great fun to be part of that Americana and see all those well-meaning people out there doing their best for their communities.
Yeah, I've been to some of those, and they can get quite interesting. So, well, it is good because that's something that I love doing is to be able to give back to that community, and I know there's no money in doing any of that. It's, it's so volunteer work, and it's just fulfilling. It really gives you a sense of fulfillment. Do you experience the same thing?
Yeah, and I'd recommend it to anybody who would like to get to know the business community better and get to know other people. It is a great way to work together, shoulder to shoulder, and accomplish something and meet some great people in the process.
Well, and that is exactly my goal by doing this kind of blog, is to get to know to get to know the people that I actually hang out with a little better, because we don't go, or when we meet, we don't have this kind of conversation to be able to understand better what they do, what they're about, and even why they do it.
Well, if you're asking me why I do it, I enjoy my clients' dependence on me. I enjoy them saying, well, what's the right thing to do? I even enjoy it when they challenge. Why do you say that? Wouldn't it be better if we did this?
Right.
And usually I've been around that block a few more times than they have. So they take my advice, and um, pretty often they are very thankful they do.
Well, I'm sure they are, especially employment labor. I mean, labor can be, especially in California, can be quite complex.
Well, right now it's a very difficult circumstance for both employers and employees. Employees' backs are against the wall. They've had a period of inflation. They need additional compensation to pay the bills. Employers have been paying more for the products they get. The supply chains are backed up. And where there's a pension plan, the pension plan is underfunded. And they're saying,
Right.
where's the money going to come from?
Right.
And so there's a lot of dividing the baby and difficult decisions that have to be made in the next couple of years. And if you're wise and you've been around the block a few times, you know that everybody has a legitimate claim to that. And we have to figure out what's going to be best for all of us going forward, not just for this particular negotiation or this particular time, but where would we all like to be 2 or 3 years from now?
Well, and that's definitely a great advice. I know you mentioned you work with mostly mid-sized businesses. Tell us a little bit about what is your ideal client, and are you even taking clients?
Well,
Because
sure.
you sound pretty busy.
I'm always taking a client because you never know when somebody's going to retire or sell their business. And the ideal client is uh, a concern that has 20, 30, 40, 100 employees, and has perhaps somebody who's been assigned HR, or even somebody who's a professional, even somebody who's using um, an HR service. Most of them are from out of state. And I find that those out of state services have a multi-state service that doesn't necessarily work in California. So those clients tend to be even more dependent. And just yesterday, I was asked to do a severance agreement for such an employer, and they had had an out-of-state service, and they asked me to fly spec that and make sure it worked under California law.
Wow. Well, definitely, it sounds like you can just provide such a great value to make sure that everybody stays within the guidelines of the law. So,
The idea is to let business people run their businesses
right.
and recognizing that anything I do is overhead, and we want to keep that down so they can make a profit. And so I try to advise them on, well, these are your choices for right now. This is the implication of what that will mean down the road. And I think, well, they keep me as their lawyer. They must like what I'm telling them.
Well, I'm sure they do. And let me tell you, it's just a. By the way, this was not planned. It looks like we're wearing a uniform here, but this was not planned. But I just want to say that it's been definitely a great privilege to be able to be on some of those meetings with you, where you're constantly giving us advice as board members, as members of the different organizations that you support.
Well, I've watched your resilience through business ups and downs, and I've always admired how you come up smiling and looking how you can serve the community in your next job and the next job, and you're a model for a lot of people.
I appreciate that, and we're gonna put your information on this video. And this is gonna be out there in all those different channels, including LinkedIn, which I have a little over 5,000 connections there. So if you need advice or consultation, please contact Karl. You cannot get better than Karl.
Well, thank you, Aaron. It's a pleasure.
Karl, thank you so
Appreciate
much
it. Thank
for
you.
making the time to do
Thank
this
you.
with me, and I greatly appreciate it. Once again, if there's a business out there that would like to be featured in this blog, please give us a call. My information is up on the screen, and we'll be happy to come out and have this great conversation, just like we did with my friend Karl too. Thank you again.
Thanks, Aaron.